Author John Meacham and America's Book Club host David Rubenstein toured the David M. Rubenstein Gallery at the Library of Congress, featuring artifacts from the library's collection.
So we are here at the Library of Congress, and this is a treasures gallery. And the treasures gallery was created, the idea was around for a while, but Carla Hayden got it done. And the idea is to take the most valuable treasure that the Library of Congress has and put it in one place. So when people come to the Library of Congress, they can actually see things. Like if you go to the Smithsonian, you have certain things you can see. Well, the library never had a place where you had all their most valuable things, or many of the most valuable things on display. So here you'll see some of the objects they have that are now in display in one place, and a visitor can come in and look at them. So,
terrific.
Go see.
Good.
These are the contents of Lincoln's.
Lincoln's pockets.
Right.
You know, he kept clips, newspaper clips, of favorable reviews. He had some columns that people had written about him.
Hi. Nice to see you. I'm Michelle with the Prints and Photographs Division at the library. I'm here to show you this grouping of Civil War portrait photographs from our Lillienquist collection of Civil War photography. And what this group is really demonstrating is how photographs really came to play an important and intimate role in rituals of mourning and death during the Civil War. This happens for two different reasons. One is that the medium of photography is changing. You get what's called the tintype, which is what most of these are, which is a very durable and easily produced, and most importantly, affordable way to produce portraits. So they're on really thin sheets of iron with a black lacquer on top. The second thing, of course, is the war itself. So before the war, you have rituals of the good death, where the idea is you die at home, surrounded by your family. And of course, during the war, that's not happening for thousands of people. So what happens is these portraits come to be almost like bodily surrogates for our loved ones who have gone away and not come back. So if you look in really closely here, you can see this woman is actually holding something.
It's you tell me.
She's holding a portrait photograph. So she's getting her own photographic portrait taken with a portrait of someone who we might assume is no longer around.
Right.
Yes, and the same thing is happening here, and you'll have to get in really closely here with this image. You'll notice that the woman is wearing around her neck a brooch, which has a photograph in it. So here we're seeing how photographs come to be these bodily surrogates. And up above, you're also seeing some actual examples of photographic jewelry. And these, again, are showing how intimate these photographs were. They're worn close to the body. And even here on this one on the left, and also on the far right, those chains are actually made of human hair. So there's this really intimate connection here with the medium and this interactivity that's going on. So this brooch, kind of at the top in the middle here, that one has a lock of hair behind it.
Sure.
So you could wear it on your lapel, and you could have the choice to either show the lock of hair or show the portrait. So creating that kind of intimacy in that moment. And this one here too, unfortunately, I can't take it out and show you, but if you turned those images, there's also images of the children of this couple inside. So it's also a multi-generational kind of way of remembering. And that's what I think is really special about these photographs,
What was do we have any sense of what the cost was to have the picture made, to have this done? Was there any barrier? Did you have to be middle class, or was it more?
Once you get around to the tintype, it's becoming much more affordable, maybe $1.50 in 1860s dollars. Before that, there was a big barrier with the daguerreotype, which was on a copper plate, much more expensive.
Oh, thank you.
These are materials from the music division that all relate to the Civil War, starting with music, a band book used by a soprano cornet player, but they demonstrate how our music holdings tell three parts of the Civil War story at once. The music that was played by the more than 600 Union bands that were put together at the beginning of the war. There were about 150 Confederate bands at that same time. Secondly, who it was that played these things. The band book was owned by one Freeman Cross, and a photograph of him taken at about the same time.
And where was he from? Do you know?
Sorry?
Where was he from?
I do not know. I'm not sure. I mean, he was from the New York Infantry, so one assumes he was from New York, but beyond that, I don't know. A bugle that was played by one Richmond Parker, not sure where he was from, but the interesting thing about that is it has the names of battles etched into the horn, and then drumsticks used by Jesse Mills, and a photograph of him. And of course, the musical piece of the Civil War includes not only drum rolls and rhythmic announcements and bugle calls, but there was also an entertainment and morale aspect to the bands. And so we have the music story, the history story, and the people who were actually involved with this.
Mm-hmm. Would every unit have had? Would it have been more? It would have been more common to have had some instruments around than not, I presume.
Well, I think it was the kind of thing where, when the war began, and nobody believed it was going to go on as long as it did.
You didn't need to bring anything,
And it explains why that 600 or so units had bands in the Union Army, and they were bands of maybe 15, 18, 20 players, mostly brass and some percussion as well. And of course, as the war dragged on and on and on, and things went from bad to worse in a lot of places, the military bands were sort of an administrative casualty of it. And the result of that is there's very little Civil War band music that survives in this hand-notated form as it was used during the time. There are 3 complete sets known to survive. The music division has one of them, used by the 3rd New Hampshire Regiment.
That's great. Good for you.
It's very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let me show you something down here. When the United States reached an agreement with the British, they, in 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, there was a race to figure out who could publish the first map of the United States as it was post the Treaty of Paris.
Right.
And entrepreneurs would try to figure out if they could get subscribers who would say, I'll buy a copy, and they would get money and they'd go to a printer. The first man who did it was a guy named Mr. Buell, B-U-E-L-L. This is the first map of the United States post the Treaty of Paris. I bought it at an auction, and the Library of Congress didn't have it, so I've lent it to them for a long time. And it's, you can see what they didn't know. The borders were never really resolved, so they have Connecticut and other things going out to the Mississippi, because they didn't resolve at the Treaty of Paris how far.
The western border.
This is the first map of the United States, which actually has it's copyrighted, first copyrighted map, and the first one that has the Star Spangled Banners from post 1783, called the Buell map. And this is an interesting copy. There are only 7 of these left.
Wow.
And this particular one was bought by a congressman from New Jersey who was in Paris in the 1800s. And he sees at a fair this map, so he buys it and sends it to the New Jersey Historical Society, and they file it away. 100 years later, they realize they have it. They've never had it on display, so it's not faded. So every other copy of this map is faded. This one was not faded because it was never on display, and then they put it up for sale and they needed some money.
Fantastic. I have always been puzzled, because I have no math in my brain, how they could have done this without aerial.
It is amazing.
right? I mean, that's the Chesapeake we now know. I mean, that's. And how do they know the river, the way the river ran? I mean, it's just incredible.
Well, Mr. Buell ultimately turned out to have problems with the law, and he was seen as a counterfeiter. And he ultimately had I think his ear was cropped for one of the penalties you got in those days. They cut off your ear. They have some incredible videos. Albert Einstein. They have a whole audio-visual center. It's in Virginia. That they keep incredible amounts of audio-visual films everywhere. They have it.
Hello. So this is a draft page from the autobiography of Mary Church Terrell. Terrell was a pioneering educator, civil rights activist, and women's rights advocate. She was the first Black woman appointed to the District of Columbia Board of Education. She was a charter member of the NAACP, one of two African American women who founded the NAACP. The other was Ida B. Wells Barnett.
Mm-hmm.
And she also founded the National Association of Colored Women and served as its first president in 1896. Now, she was born in Memphis, Tennessee, to a prosperous family. Her father, Robert R. Church, made his money in real estate speculation. He's touted as the first Black millionaire of the South. Her mother, Louisa Ayers, became a well-established Black beautician in Memphis. And so in this particular passage, she discusses her childhood. She relates to a racial incident that occurred when she was in Memphis. But when she was 7 years old, her mother took her out of the Memphis schools to avoid that kind of racism and sent her up north to Antioch, Ohio, to be enrolled in the model school that was associated with Antioch College. So for the next 15 years, she was enrolled in schools in Ohio, first at Antioch's Model School. And then at the age of 12, she moved to Oberlin, Ohio, where she attended Oberlin Academy. And then after Oberlin Academy, Oberlin College.
And what year was she born?
She was born in 1863.
Oh, wow. So,
September 23rd, I believe, 1863. So right in the year of emancipation. And interestingly enough, her life cycle ends 2 months after the decision in Brown versus the Board of Education.
In 54.
So she got to see the end of Jim Crow segregation.
So her father, was he a freedman?
They were both of her parents were born enslaved. Her father was the son of a Mississippi steamboat captain who acknowledged him and who raised him after his mother died his mother died when he was 12 years old. And so because his father showed him attention that most enslaved people did not receive, he developed a kind of confidence. And during the Civil War, the steamboat, which went up and down the Mississippi River, was captured by Union soldiers. And her father was taken prisoner first by the Union soldiers and then liberated. And then he moved to Memphis to make his own way. And he began by buying a saloon. And then there was a yellow fever epidemic in Memphis. and everybody sort of cleared town.
Yep.
But
Yep.
he bought up the property, and he invested in saloons and game rooms, pool halls, and a hotel. He later also founded a park and an auditorium in the Beale Street neighborhood of Memphis.
And his name was
And his name was Robert Reed Church.
Robert Reed Church.
So, what I'm going to talk about is the Civil Rights History Project, which is a joint Born Digital oral history collection. It was a joint initiative of both the Library of Congress American Folklife Center, where I work, and the National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Right.
It was, back in the day, a bipartisan effort. It was sponsored by both parties in 2009 and is public law. And the law basically mandated both institutions to capture the recollections and reminiscences of people who were active in the freedom movement. So to that end, we did over 145 interviews. We ended up interviewing about 175 activists. One of the many surprising things, which I keep discovering over and over again, is how young these people were. And you know this as being a historian. I mean, 17 and 22. So if you think, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was formed in 1960. Those folks were like 17 and 18.
Yep.
They're all in their 80s now.
Yep.
So that's what we have. The other thing about the collection, which I think was salutary, is that from the very beginning we intended to get this out into public view as quickly as possible. So there's usually a long waiting time to process collections, but we made every effort to get it out, even to launch it. I think within 3 years we had the first 50 interviews up online. It's available for educators, for students, for people who are doing research into it, and people who are just curious about what this period of American society and culture were like. They're all available online worldwide. The text speaks, I think, very basically to some of the issues and some of the ways in which we conceived of it.
Did you conduct any of the interviews?
I worked on a couple of them. I was a producer for most of them, so I sat in on a number of them myself.
What's your most memorable moment?
My most memorable moment, there are many. I think the one that I remember really vividly is a woman by the name of Erica Huggins, who was a member of the Black Panther Party. And her husband, when she had just given birth to their first child, this was out in California, and her husband was killed in an assassination. And so the story goes on. It's a complicated story. It involves many different actors who were both within and outside the movement. But what I remember most was she would stop, but she just kept going. She had a story to say, and she wanted to say it to the public. We asked her a couple of times, "Do you want us to stop and give you a break?" And she says, "No." She made me stop once or twice. And I just looked around the room, and in addition to her tears, there were tears on the part of the interviewer, my colleague David Klein, and the videographer John Bishop, and I. And so it was one of those moments where you just think about the power of story, but you also think of the way in which these folks were really veterans. They were on the front lines of the struggle. So the idea that veterans and the combat zone was American society.
Yeah.
And that I think is part of the great trauma, which I think people don't understand, is that how fraught the times were. You of course you do as a historian.
No, but it's incredible. It was our great. The New York Times would send their war correspondents. Right. Homer Beggar, they.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
And the other among the other things that I think are important, have become important for me, and I came into this with a basic knowledge of what the freedom struggle was, but I learned to use the term freedom movement and freedom rights rather than civil rights.
Yeah.
And I heard that directly from the lips of Dr. Bernice Reagan Johnson.
Yep.
Who at our inaugural meeting of the board.
And just do what she says. It's
Yes, absolutely. She's a force of nature. She
Absolutely.
was a force of nature. But she said freedom is what we called it. And when she said we, it was immediately apparent that she didn't just mean we as in the student activists, but the communities that she worked in, that they all worked in Georgia, where she was from. She said civil rights is something that was imposed upon us. And you get into the other histories, again, probably colleagues, younger contemporaries like Hassan Jeffries, Charles Payne, who talks about freedom rights as
Yep.
the overarching theme of all of this. And that is something I think which we tend to obscure.
Yep.
And that's part of it too. It's just the notion of the long black freedom struggle that your colleague Julian Bond, I think, was instrumental in talking about. That it goes back the very first days of enslavement for African Americans.
Civil rights is something that can be granted or taken away. Freedom cannot.
Correct.
Right.
That's the other memorable thing about the interviews for me is that there's not a single triumphalist moment in all of the narratives. Because they say they all, to a person they would say that the work goes on.
Sure.
Rights are still being fought for. They're still to be captured. They're still to be grasped within people's
Always
existence.
defended.
Always, exactly. Always defended. And there's such wonderful stories of personal involvement, personal experience, and those are, again, going back to your point of memorable moments. I think I get a memorable moment every time I watch one of those interviews.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
great.
very much. Thank you.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it very much. Thank you so much.